Hey there, my name is sjofors. It's a weird name, and I'm also known as the Price Whisperer. And obviously that's a much easier way to find me. You can always Google the Price Whisperer, and you find me if you want to know some more about what we're doing and learn a little bit more about how you can use pricing to drive your company forward. Anyway, today I want to talk about how much time do you really have to relocate or allocate, I should say, when you use a price consultant. And first of all, not all companies have a pricing function. Many large companies do have a pricing function, and it's often there to be very good in calculating cost and then maybe use a minimum margin on top of that. But as I said in an earlier video, there are essentially three kinds of price consulting firms. There are price consulting firms that focuses on the process of pricing, what they do is to make sure that the price that is being sold to is meet certain minimum margin goals and so forth. They will also do bundles. They will do pricing strategy for as some products or services are sort of ending of life, and they will bundle stuff. They sometimes work with rebates, sometimes not, and work with the whole process of setting price from sort of from the inception of a product or a service all the way to the price being presented to the customer. Then they also do something called a price waterfall. And in the price waterfall, you examine the entire process from that really from that price list to what comes on the invoice, and then what eventually ends up in the company's bank account. And there's always leaks. There are mistakes being made, and I've talked to this in a little bit more detail in a prior video. But there could be things like manual mistakes. It could be that there are steps in the process that doesn't make sure that you give the right quantity discount to a customer, for example. Or maybe if you're selling internationally, the wrong the wrong exchange rates are used and so forth, or tariffs and others are not really calculated properly. So that's one kind of activity a pricing managers kind of do especially in a large company. Other activities are related to sales transactions, and when you look at sales transaction, you typically take as many variables as you possibly can get and compare sales volume and gross margin with those variables, and that allows you to identify leaks that happens in your sales organization. This could be salespeople or portions of the organization that is more happy to discount than others. It could be some that have very low sales volume but very high revenue because they don't discount. It could be reps, if you sell through reps, or different channels that leads to different profitability or different gross margins. There could be, obviously you look at product or services as well, so you can see what products are really contributing to the company's profitability and to revenue, and some products will inevitably have a very low margin, and then the question is, do you really need them, or maybe you should just get rid of them. So that's what you get from sales transaction analysis. And the third kind of price consultant is somebody who goes out and actually understand what a market is willing to pay for a product or a service. And this is the kind of consultancy we run, that I run. And when you do that, it's about understanding in detail the product or services. It's about understanding the market and so forth, and then do the actual willingness to pay research. Now, I said that in this episode I want to talk about what kind of resource could you expect to use, and of course if you do the very first section, meaning the very first type of price consultancy, where you look at prices and margins and costs and so forth. If you don't have that data readily available, it becomes a very it requires quite a lot of engagement from the consultant's point of view, and much of this is just make the data ready for analysis. Very few companies can just flip a button and export data from some kind of ERP system or accounting system or invoicing system that you need. So even for a sort of mid-sized company, this becomes really a full-time job just to do this, right? And then when you add on the price waterfall, you need to put together a cross-functional team with people from pricing, of course, and your price consultant, from sales, from marketing, from finance, and in detail go through the entire process on how you present the price to what money actually arrives in the bank account, and obviously it's only those monies that really count. And when this is done, it really needs to have support from the very highest level, meaning the CEO, because people are people, and people don't want to change, and people say, well, I've been doing it this way since 1965 and I'm not going to change. Well, there's a challenge there, and you need to be able to have that feedback, have that support from the top of the company to really enforce what needs to happen, and obviously there's training of people here. There may be new software or upgraded software or new processes that needs to be defined, new checkpoints that needs to be defined, new sign-offs that needs to be defined. So again, this is it's very involved exercise, to be honest. And then the second type, where we look at sales transaction analysis, is sort of the same thing. The consultant need to have access to all the various data, all the financial data, all the cost data, and again, that is rarely available in a succinct way. And because of that, just finding the data, cleaning the data, verifying the data is man weeks, if not man months, in many cases. So it becomes then a very involved kind of process, and that maybe man month before any analysis is taking place, and the same thing here. Maybe data needs to be consolidated, maybe new databases need to be created, or schemas in databases need to be updated, or databases need to be consolidated in some way. So quite significant work to be done. Now, in the third category, my category, if you like, when you do willingness to pay research, there's hardly any resource at all from the company's point of view required. When you do it, to understand the product, the service, or the marketplace, and to create the research design that will go out to the market in an online polling exercise, we're talking about a couple of hours, couple of man hours for the company to spend on this, and then nothing happens until the actual results are done, and the results are presented to the company, and and then of course in many cases there may be changes that needs to be done, not only in pricing but changes in how the company's marketing mix, maybe the way the company sells, the sales channels that the company use, the sales messages and so forth. So yeah, there's some work here, but since these are ongoing activities that any company do, any company always try to market a little bit better. They try to optimize their sales process a little bit better. It's the only difference is that now you have some hard data that will point towards what is the most effective ways, both in product management, in terms of feature functions, in terms of customer focus, in terms of marketing channels and messages, in terms of sales methodologies, and of course always a new price list of some sort, and a new discount schedule. So there is training necessary, but training that is part of the way any company trains and communicates with its people. Now, the interesting thing here again is that the typical work from price consultants, working with cost, working with price waterfall, working with sales transaction analysis, is looking at improvements that are a few percent, 1, 2, 3, 4% of revenue. That would be all profits when all said and done. Whereas the work that we do in my company, which is then the willingness to pay research, is completely transformative. It can transform a company and allow it to elevate itself to the next level. And we're talking here not about a few percent improvements, but often several tenths percent of improvement, maybe 20, 30, 40%, sometimes even more, in terms of revenue improvements and profitability improvements, and often a 3 to 5 times higher valuation as a result. So this focusing on willingness to pay research requires the lowest amount of resource for the company who's doing this exercise, and have by far the highest impact on profitability and revenue. So it's the most effective way of driving a company to the next level. Anyway, that was it. I hope you find this interesting, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.